If you enjoyed the channel and our video content and would like to support us, you can do this in a couple of ways. You can sign up to our Patreon site, which is a monthly subscription to one of our 4 tiers, each giving you something different from early access interviews up to exclusive unseen footage. There's also the option of a one-off donation via PayPal, which allows you the option to donate an amount of your choice. Both options really help to keep this channel going and to continue putting out regular content for you good folk. So please take a look at aircrewinterview.tv/donate, and I thank you in advance. Thank you and enjoy.
So for the officers, so they kind of split it on a carrier. You know, you have the mess decks for the enlisted, and then the wardrooms for the officers. There was various wardrooms, both on all Nimitz class carriers. You know, and it really depended. It was interesting in my transition from E2s to Hornets, because we would be, when we moved to the Stennis and I moved to the Hornet Squadron, we were in a different ready room. And it's funny because you would eat kind of where your ready room was, because that's where you hung out all day. That was your office. If you weren't flying, you were either in your room or in the ready room. And in the E2 squadron, we were in ready room 2, which is way up forward. So we would always eat in the forward wardroom. And it was just nice. It was quiet up there, you know. And then in my Hornet squadron, we were in towards the back of the ship. So we would eat downstairs, which was a more formal wardroom. It was funny. That's where more of the higher ranking ship's personnel would come. And I always liked, we kind of referred to the forward wardroom as the dirty shirt. You know, that's kind of where the working guys go. And I liked eating up there because it was there was just less of the formalities of things. You know, I remember the first time I went down to the wardroom below in the middle of the ship, and I just walked up to a table I knew some guys at and sat down, and like they all gave me these looks, and I'm like, okay. And like afterwards, one of my buddies is like, dude, did you see who was at the table? You're supposed to request permission to sit here. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. Like, I'm like, we don't do that up forward, man. Like, we just sit down. Like, and he's like, well, yeah. I was like, whatever. You know, it's not the first person I pissed off. It's not gonna be the last. But so it was just a different vibe, you know, as far as eating goes. You know, sometimes I would go down. I tried to leave my guys and girls alone when I was a division officer, because that was their time to eat. I didn't want to, you know, be the officer that's in there. But sometimes, you know, they'd invite me. They'd be like, hey, sir, you want to come down to the mess decks? And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, that'd be fun, you know. And you get the whole shop together and you'd eat.
When you get invited, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because, again, it's their personal space. You know, so the food was good. It was funny. On the Nimitz, the food was actually award-winning good. Like they... and that was, I know you've watched the interviews with Nasty Manazer, and that was all his time. And he put people in the position that, I mean, it was winning awards for how good the food was. And I didn't appreciate that until I moved on to the Stennis and I started eating there. And I'm like, God, this food kind of sucks. You know, you miss it. So it really kind of varied how good the food was based on the ship. And you were always skeptical if the food was really good all of a sudden, because that usually meant they were about to give you bad news. So like they're breaking out like, hey, it's steak dinner, you're like, oh boy, like are we extending on deployment? Like that's not good, you know. So you had that was kind of where we would eat. And then as far as exercise, there was multiple gyms on the ship for whatever you wanted to do. They were typically pretty crowded, so you'd find times to go. One of the things, and they had other exercise equipment like rowing machines or stationary bikes kind of placed all throughout. And when I was on the Nimitz, one of the things I liked is right outside my room, you would basically go out. I'll still remember it. It's been forever. Go out, make a right, a left, and there was a ladder well to go up to where the ready room was. Well, in that ladder well, there was a stationary bike just sitting there. Oh, and nice. I kind of, the joke became on my second and third deployment is I was trying to ride the bike home because I was on it all the time. Like if I had been up on the platform all day as an LSO and it's 1 a.m, you know, I would switch out of my flight suit and go hop and ride on the bike for an hour just to kind of, you know, listen to music and not be on an aircraft carrier. You know, that was my escape. So you kind of had to figure out what was there. But there was really good facilities. You know, obviously the military wants you to stay in shape, you know, to the best that you can. But I never really got in. Some guys got into running. I never got into running. I'm not a runner, but also on the ship, it's your options are to run on the flight deck when we're not flying, which is really hard on your joints because it's a steel flight deck, or run on a treadmill, which is really hard on your whole body because the ship's moving. And I've watched people in the gym just completely eat it when they're trying to run on a treadmill. And I'm like,
Wow.
I'll just stick to the bike or the rower.
Yeah, I'll give that a miss.
Something simple,
Yeah.
But there was good facilities for that. The joke was the movie theater, the bowling alley, all those things which don't exist. I hate to dispel that myth, but that's how you would mess with new guys. You'd tell them to meet down at the bowling alley, after dinner or something, and they'd be walking all over the ship trying to find it and stuff like that. So, but all in all, it's a floating city. So anything you could possibly want, barber shops, ship store, all that stuff was there. Because it had to be, because you're gone for so long and you don't know. I mean, we went 90 days once without pulling into a port. So,
wow.
You gotta have facilities there to be able to do stuff and all that. So,
you mentioned there you go and buy a call card. Was there like probably call them stores where you can go and pick up a Twix or anything like that? Was there stuff like that on board?
Yeah. So you would go down there and obviously they sold like some of the ship memorabilia, the ball caps and the hats and things like that. But then it was pretty much like a small convenience store where if you needed shaving cream, if you needed a calling card, if you just wanted a candy bar or an energy drink or something, you could buy all that. And, initially my first deployment, it was all cash. But then it became where basically you would have a ship's credit card essentially, and you would load it up with money and then you just buy whatever you needed. And, they had cigars down there. They had all sorts of stuff that, you just kind of, whatever little treat that you were going to do, sometimes we would do movie nights in the ready room and, we'd send a couple guys down there to just buy out the store and just bring up snacks and all that. Or, we'd have the enlisted shops come up to watch movies in the ready room sometimes. And
cool.
Same thing, we'd buy out the store and with chips and snacks, or sometimes we'd go even further and kind of schmooze the chefs to cook us something nice for it, or they'd make us pizza or they'd make us like a meal for all the shops, so it was something to do. Because essentially when you deploy, I mean, if you think about it, you're at work 24 hours a day until you pull into port. And then even in port, you're still doing work. It's not like everybody just takes off and has a good time. There's duty you have to do and watch schedules. So, you would do whatever you could to make everybody's day just a little better. And I think that's what really made a deployment either successful or not, is if everybody was willing to just put in that extra 5 or 10% to make the people around them happier, then it was, it multiplied and it really made the deployment better. So